Well, good morning and welcome back to the Gonzo Radio Sports Desk. It's starting to get to the point now where I have to actually put forth some effort to remember which show it is I'm doing again. The good old feeling of I can't come back with, hi, everybody, welcome back to the Gonzo Radio Show. It's like, no, Sports Desk. Sports, Sunday. The sun is out. You know, that spurless, scandalous, the reason why we needed an adult content disclaimer on the opener show. That's at 9 p.m. Monday nights. We handle adult content, amongst other things. But today, sports, Sunday, sports, it's our thing. It's what we do. And seated across from me, he is matriculating on your video screen from left to right. And he's had a little work done. He's looking good. He's got his is that hair plugs for men? Is that hair club?
That was in 1988, I believe. So did they have hair plugs back then? I think that's me. That's natural.
Well, let's see the difference.
I think the hair plugs
today. What was that, 1990?
88 probably.
88?
I was about 18 years old.
88?
18. Yeah, I'm not
today.
sure. Listen, I cannot explain the positioning.
The ravages of
what I was doing.
time.
It looks like I'm coming out of the bathroom. Maybe I just got done taking a shower or something and somebody snapped me a picture.
The ravages of time.
Yeah, I do appear to be posing, though, so I'm sure I was aware. It wasn't like totally, op-ed, but it's there. That's me at 18.
Yeah, and that's
this is me now.
Everybody had hair at 18. Okay?
This is me
Everybody
now.
had hair.
So
we all had hair.
yeah, it's a great look.
Well, could we just start off with aliens?
Sure, if you want to.
No, we don't. We don't actually need to start off.
6
with
months
aliens
from now, by the way, there's going to be a report that's going to be decommissioned and become unclassified. That was a lot more stuff that's already come out, separate from the stuff that ATIP and that program has brought to light. So there's a lot of stuff that's coming. Now again, not to get into the whole thing, but I honestly think that by year's end, if you're a non-believer, I think we have a good chance to convert you to a believer. I think there's going to be just too much out there. So.
Well, all I know is if I continue to lose water weight and my face continues to get skinny here, I'm going to end up with one of those waddles underneath my chin, and it's going to make me look like one of those aliens from Men in Black 2. When it's like, it's like,
well, you always can settle for an extra role if they do a third.
I'm gonna be one of those middle-aged men that's got to have a little work done. That's in the future. That's
meh. That's what you should do.
Not you. You're disgusting. I mean, you're probably going to revert back to this form. It's going to be ridiculous. So, yeah, I hate you. You and your Italian genes.
Yeah.
But
shorts more like.
Well, let's get to our first topic, which is kind of a hot topic, in as much as sports writers, especially NFL beat writers, they're rowing hard. Every day, they're rowing and rowing and rowing, trying to get that clickbait out there to see how many people. I mean, the thirst for clicks. I mean, yeah, it's the pursuit of it's their job
sure.
to get people to watch. But now we're getting, like, every other day, there's a new quarterback that wants to get traded. And every day we get the same report about the Houston Texans. They say they're not trading. And then we get Deshaun Watson saying, I want out. Well, they had a meeting this week, he and Dave Culley, and they were like, oh, yeah, that's really cool. Yeah, thanks for the sweet tea. And, yeah, you're really awesome. I still want to leave. I'm not playing for you. I'm not playing. And now, listen, Dave Culley is a longtime NFL assistant. And he is a longtime coordinator, okay? And there's a reason why he's been a longtime coordinator, okay? I don't know what the thinking is. This kid Cesario from the Patriots, he better know something. Because if he is not a genius, and he has made the genius move to take this guy Culley off the scrap heap, in Baltimore, buried as the assistant special teams coach or some crap like that.
Yeah.
if that move was not a genius move, it's going to be a downhill rolling dumpster fire in Houston, an absolute disaster.
The Texans are doing the best they can to seem like that they're in control of this. And by doing that, by saying all those things, by saying he's not leaving, by having these meetings and making it appear that he's coming back to the Texans, it keeps his value, at least his tradable value, high.
Right.
They're doing the right thing. Obviously, I think we can see the writings on the wall, but still the team still has to present that front so that when the trade does finally happen, what they get in return is going to be hopefully close enough to whatever his value may or may not have been once he leaves. So I think that's obviously both sides. It's a standoff. That's what all these are. Any negotiation is two sides coming to an agreement if they can. If they're not, they part ways. But both sides want to win the argument. And this is what's happening. Watson's not going to be there, in my opinion. There's no way.
No way.
Unless they do something radical, like, you know what, here's what we're going to do. We're not trading you. You want to sit out for a year, fine. You want to retire and come back next year and play, guess what? You're playing for us anyway because we have your rights. So that is a situation I don't think they wanted to get to because then nobody wins. So again, understanding the situation, understanding that Watson has...
Sort of like Le'Veon Bell?
Well, with a lot less opportunity and talent. Obviously, Bell at that time had talent, but he was a running back. You're talking about now a quarterback who is going to get a lion's share's ransom for whatever team he does go to eventually.
Right.
But again, it's a poker game. It's bluffing. It's calling your moves and stuff. It's just understanding the situation and trying to again maximize both sides. And I don't think there's bad blood there still. Even though Watson's kind of said the right things.
Watson's not having it.
Well, I get that, but Watson
Dave
also.
who?
But they're still in meetings, or at least they're discussing there's meetings. It's not
There
like
was a meeting.
It's not like Watson's gone dark and he's like, well, we're not. My agent's making a statement and saying that, hey, listen, we're done. We're not talking anymore. We're not getting back to the table. Again, I think both sides have a relationship because they've been tied together for so long, and that they want this to end as best as they can for both sides. So I think that what you mentioned earlier, which was a good lead-in with the clickbaits, I think what we're seeing is those sorts of stories that generate interest. Oh, there's a problem. Oh, what are they going to do? Oh, he's walked away from the table. When these guys are in meetings together, and they've been together for the last 8 years, okay? Management, him, it's one package. I just think that they want best case situation to have both
He's
parties.
only been there 4 years, first of all.
Well, ownership, other things. It's only been 4 years for Watson. I think this is like his 6th year.
No, that was his 4th year.
Okay, my mistake. Either way, they have a relationship. He's not wanting to leave under any amount of distress, and I don't think the team wants it either. Both sides want to walk away from the equation winning to the best they can.
Well, I can tell you from what I've seen of Watson's camp, he's not having it. He's just not having it. It's not happening.
Okay.
When a player comes out and says,
Yeah.
I'm never playing for you again, as you well know with Le'Veon Bell, I'm never playing for you again. It's not happening. But let me ask you a question. Is the McNair family the worst ownership family in the NFL?
They're there. They're definitely in the top, 2 or 3? Washington, Snyder was bad for a long time, too.
Well, Snyder is in a family operation. He doesn't have any of his kids working in the front office that I know of.
Well, I'm talking about just overall teams.
Family, but I'm saying
family
family
just strictly
operation.
Family, okay.
Yeah, because
for sure,
Houston
yeah.
has been passed down, from the old man, the current owner, which is the original McNair's kid. Okay, who was a raging racist, and everybody knew it.
Yeah.
Okay, so now it's been passed down, and his son worked in the front office for a long time. I'm sure he was vice president of something. So, and the team has done nothing but make a steady slide, in spite of the fact that they have a top 3 quarterback.
Yeah, no, terrible.
In spite of that fact,
their personnel decisions have been horrendous, questionable. Right. They gave a lot of power to the old coach,
Bill O'Brien,
and that didn't work. Clearly, no. Trading away, what you call the receiver.
And listen, that's not to say that Obi
Hopkins.
Obi isn't he's an excellent coach. Okay, but if he had a general manager and they were on the same page, he'd probably still be there.
Maybe, yeah.
If he had a good general manager and they were on the same page and they were bringing in, good talent and telling him, listen, you have to deal with this talent. Like Hopkins, okay, Hopkins should still be there, but he's not. So what happened, and that's because of the brain trust, the McNair family brain trust.
I think in today's
I think they're a
NFL,
train wreck.
it's too difficult for coaches to have to be general managers also to split these giant, huge responsibilities on one person's
True.
shoulders. It's just too much.
Ask Nick Saban.
Yeah, I mean, there's a lot of people.
Nick
in that
Saban came down
situation,
here
too.
and was like, "I'm in charge of everything."
"Yeah, it's way too much."
You know, Stephen Ross handed him the keys
Yeah.
and said, "Here, you have the keys to the building,
yeah,
and you're in charge of everything."
you have to have good people around you.
Not
good-
everybody is Don Shula. And even Don Shula had a director of player personnel. He had a director of pro personnel. He had a front office structure, even though he was the president of football operations and the head coach.
Yeah, but remember today's NFL.
Today's NFL.
Today's NFL.
Get a grip.
No chance.
Get a grip.
Just too difficult. Too many moving pieces.
Too much calculus.
Yeah. Again, it's not just. I mean, just to use the simple analogies, they say, "Oh, it's a business. It's a business." It is a business. You have to be able to run your business. And obviously, if you own your business, you run your business. But you're not alone. You have office managers. You have secretaries. You have all these moving parts that keep your business viable. No different in football.
So we all know and probably agree that the Rooney family is the best family-owned franchise in the NFL.
Most stable. How about we say
Stable and best. They're the most successful. Since the Rooneys, since old man Rooney bought into it, what,
64 or 5?
64?
Yeah.
Okay, they were horrendous their first 4 or 5 years.
Yeah.
But Rooney learned the game. He learned the business of the game. And what did he do? He went out and he found good football people. Okay, and I mean, even when Chuck Noll arrived there, they still sucked for a couple of years.
Yeah, well, 3 coaches in 40 years. I
Yeah.
mean, that says something for stability.
Right.
And stability is the argument to achieve. Because
Right.
what you're trying to do is achieve that.
If you get it right the first friggin' time.
Yeah, people work well in stable environments. It's
Right.
common sense.
For real.
Yeah.
So I would have to then at the bottom of the feeding trough, the bottom of the barrel, would have to be the Ford family in Detroit.
I was just going to say, now
'Cause
his
it's-
sister runs the team.
Yeah, it's like there's
Who's
a
also
little,
106.
not, yeah, 105-year-old little old lady who,
Yeah.
oh, let's go to the football game.
Yeah.
Wheel my. She doesn't even have a motorized wheelchair. She has somebody to push her around because she's friggin' rich, and she goes to the football game, and then she goes, hey, you're yelling at, it's like, go Lions. She's yelling at highlights from 1974. It's oh look. Billy Sims is back.
White Shoes Johnson.
White Shoes Johnson plays for us again.
Yes.
Whatever happened to that nice young man, Greg Landry?
Yeah.
So that family is out of touch because, once again, the Ford family does not know how to hire good football people. All the success of that franchise has become because somebody has taken a good football person and put them in front of them and go, hire this guy. Okay.
Well,
And
Matt Patricia would be an example of that.
bad, horrible.
Just, you know what got me was his first press conference when he shows up, his hat's on backwards, he's scruffed out to the max, and he's like, yeah, old style. Listen, I get it. I mean, that's your persona. We're not looking to change you as a man just because you become the coach of a team. But the coach of a team does require specific things that you may or may not have with your hat on backwards and your scruffy appearance. So not good for Detroit. Didn't go well. And again, whatever images you could have portrayed in your mind, or don't judge the book by its cover type thing. What did you look at that guy and think? Well, disorganization and issues with leadership and all those things
They
played
had
out.
Matt what's his face as the vice president of football operations.
Matt Millen.
Matt Millen.
Yeah.
For the longest time.
Right.
I mean, literally for like 5 years, the people of Detroit had enough of his crap for like 3 of those 5 years. And for 5 years, it was fire Matt Millen, fire Matt Millen, fire Matt Millen. It's like I had to ask, really?
Just
Should
a
you-
question here
should you
that I've
fire
never
Matt
heard
Millen?
proposed. But 2 of perhaps the greatest, I don't know, maybe the top 100 players in the NFL of all time, both played on that team and both retired early. Barry Sanders
Yep.
walked away from the
Yep.
sport. Calvin Johnson
Yep.
walked away from the sport. Okay, why? Did anybody ask those questions? Was it because they were stuck in mediocrity for so long that
And
they
got
gave?
beat to crap carrying that team.
I mean, think about it. I mean, those were two of the greatest players that we had ever seen, especially in our generation.
Ever.
And then they just walked away from the sport after ending their career with that organization. So, interesting.
Ever.
Yeah, just, again.
Ever.
But
I
guess.
personally got to watch Barry Sanders run for 160 yards and no touchdowns. And because of the lateral movement that he had to make, instead of 160 vertical yards, he probably logged a total of about 350 yards.
He covered
running.
about a half a mile on the field.
Yeah, and didn't score a touchdown against the Dolphins in at the time Pro Player Stadium.
Go look up some of
was
his
amazing.
old clips of
Yeah,
Barry Sanders.
he was amazing.
My gosh.
I saw him in the Orange Bowl. He was amazing.
You would be
Okay?
a foot in front of him and going towards him to tackle him and not touch his body.
You wake up in the hospital.
Because he would just, it was just, just go watch some of his clips. It's
He
just
was
amazing.
the definition of ankle breaker.
Two of the greatest runners of all time that most people in our generation obviously have seen, but in the new have never seen run. Go watch Walter Payton clips and go watch Barry Sanders
Had
clips.
the pleasure of seeing Walter Payton play about five times, including the Monday Night Football tilt against the Miami Dolphins in 1985. One of my favorite all-time players. Amazing to watch. The guy could take it to the house anytime he touches the ball.
He made it look like there were kids trying to tackle him sometimes.
Sometimes,
yeah,
yes.
It's just, I mean, he ran high, not Eddie George high style running, but he ran at you, he ran over you, he ran through you, he ran by you.
He was on a different level.
It was an insanity approach. It was almost like he ran like Derrick Henry runs now, but not in that sort of body style. Because I don't think Walter Payton was 6'4", 240, 250, whatever the hell Derrick Henry is. He's a freak.
Right.
But Walter Payton I think he's probably about 6'2", 220. I mean, like Eddie George type body style. And they just ran every other way through you, around you, over you, by you. Like I said, it's just an amazing
It's fitting
talent.
that he got a Super Bowl ring and he didn't have to carry the team because before 1985, that entire football team was on his back.
Yeah.
Okay.
For sure. So go watch those old clips.
Kudos, Sweetness.
Yeah.
We all miss you. I really wish we had players like that. But yeah, back to the whole family thing, the whole NFL ownership families. You really have to, give these people a kick in the ass sometimes. I mean, the Jones family in Dallas, you give them credit for coming in and doing what they did early. Their first 10 years in the league, went from 0-16 or 1-15 to 3 Super Bowl titles to contending and being a perennial contender. Now, after that, they fell off a little. They had some lean times.
Sure.
Jerry still hasn't adjusted to the salary cap. That's because billionaires really don't know how to adjust to salary. I can't give extra money just to get what I want.
They don't know how to not spend money.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
And I think he made a huge mistake putting his son in charge of the team. I really do. They need to hire football people. But the first part of their career, the Jones family, great job. Great job because they could spend money, they could evaluate
First
talent.
half, I think the first
Third.
quarter, maybe.
Yeah, third.
Because in the last 25 years, the Cowboys have been
Terrible.
just not relevant.
Not good.
Not relevant. So,
But you have so many. The Brown family. How can the Brown family be bad? You know what I'm saying? I mean, the patriarch of that family is football royalty. His face belongs on the Mount Rushmore of football, the sport. Okay, and meanwhile, his progeny, his children, have been a joke. The Bengals have been to 2 Super Bowls,
yeah.
lost them both.
Mm-hmm. Sam Weiss was one of them. And I
Right.
think in,
Forrest Gregg.
Forrest Gregg. Thank you.
Yes, Forrest Gregg it was
Gotcha.
pathetic.
They ruined
All right.
Carson Palmer's career.
Ruined
Everybody
Carson
talks
Palmer's
about
career.
how
Ruined
good
it.
Carson Palmer was and
Ruined
is. Man, all about environment. We've talked about
The Brown family, if it weren't for the McNair family right now, the Brown family would be the worst family in the NFL.
Yeah, I agree with
They
that.
would be the worst.
Agree
they
with
really
that.
would. Okay, enough bashing. That's right. I'm talking about your family. What you gonna do? Come beat me up?
I did want to. It's funny you mentioned Carson because this is a good little segue again to get out of our football discussion about these quarterbacks and their moves. We've both stated over the years that we're pro player. Okay, we're pro player for the money, pro player for where they get to choose to play.
Oh, is this a segue to Tampa Bay?
Well, in a sense, these quarterbacks are getting a little bit of heat, like a Watson, like a Stafford did, like all these quarterbacks that are moving and changing cities and are somewhat, at least through other people's eyes, trying to control the market.
Right.
But I will have you remember a couple of big-name quarterbacks that took some of these similar paths, like a Tom Brady did last year to go to Tampa Bay and win. What did Peyton Manning do when he decided to go to Denver and win a championship?
I know.
Okay, I mean, he's certainly one of the guys. What about Elway? Did Elway not do the same thing? Did he not put up a fight and go?
Yeah, but that was at the draft. Elway was a lifelong Bronco.
I'm just giving you examples of quarterbacks. Okay, Carson Palmer's another one, too. I mean, there's a lot of quarterbacks. What I'm saying is that your most important position on the field, the one that you give the keys to your franchise,
right,
whether it is now or eventually, if that's your plan, I think he has an important say in the matter, don't you think? Yes. When it comes to not only just personnel.
Well, this is a segue for Russ Wilson.
Well, I'm coming to him as well. So in terms of personnel, you have a say, don't you not?
Yes, you do.
Okay, considering that's who you lead and you play with. But also, too, in terms of what's best for you as you and your family and such like that. So, yeah, let's talk a little Russell Wilson. What the hell are the Seahawks doing? Okay.
Speaking of another clickbait incident.
Do you want to know what's his name's the coach's record? Why is it eluding me right now? Seahawks coach
Pete
Carroll.
Okay.
Why? You know what his record was?
I'm here to help.
Do you know what his record was prior Russell Wilson?
He was a head coach of the New York Jets.
He was about 12 or 15 games under 500. Okay,
friggin' bum,
just terrible. And then all of a sudden, guess what? He got a quarterback, got the franchise quarterback, probably one of the best quarterbacks will turn out to be in our generation. And yet, after 8 or 9 years, here's where they're at. They have no talent, they have no money, they have no respect. They're not listening to what he has to say. He has very little input, and it looks like that this relationship could be coming to an end. Now, I've never been a Pete Carroll guy overall. I think he's one of these, and this is my knock on Tomlin to a degree too. I don't need rah-rah coaches. Okay, I don't need coaches that are.
They brought that from USC.
But again, and it worked only when he got the quarterback. So now that the quarterback's leaving, okay, Seattle is going to be a non-existent factor, and I'm sure Pete's going to be out the door at some point, whether it's a year, whether it's 2, because when you're not winning and you have an older coach that's looking at retirement, guess what? It's going to be time for a change.
It's like, bye.
So how could you not support a guy like that who's done everything right, has been an ambassador to not just the city and the team, but to the NFL? And yet, like we talked about, our segue is this guy's going in meetings and talking to management and going, guys, do I get a say in any of these things? And they're like, yeah, sure, no problem. We'll talk to you later. And then he's out the door.
Well, so that speaks to my thing with clickbait. Okay, I mean, let us recall that about 4 minutes after the end of the NFC Championship game, they were already talking about your buddy Aaron Rodgers, your pal. Was he going to come back? 4 minutes after the game. 4 minutes. He didn't even do his post-game presser yet.
Yeah.
And they were wondering whether or not Aaron Rodgers was going to come back. And it keeps coming up and keeps coming up and keeps coming up. And it's because they're trying to stir up interest. And the only way they can stir up interest is to wave the quarterbacks at you.
Yeah, they obviously create the opportunity.
Stop it. I'm telling you right now. Print media on the internet, video media, stop it. Just stop. Why don't you focus on the other players? Okay? Why don't you focus on them? Okay? Russell Wilson, it's growing pains right now. Okay? It's growing pains. I think Russell, you know what it is? I think Russell Wilson wants a say in who the next coach is going to be.
He wants a say in every part of that team, and he is entitled to it.
Sure.
Okay? He's been there for long enough.
$33 million a year.
And he's led that team to a Super Bowl, and he's put that team on his back over and over again.
If it wasn't for a stupid play call by Pete Carroll, they would have 2 Super Bowl rings.
That's another decision that has never been brought up, or at least not recently.
I bring it up all the time.
Well,
Pete Carroll, you're an idiot.
Yeah, memories are short, unfortunately, for some. But, yeah, that's another black mark on his career for Mr. Pete Carroll. Listen, you got a franchise guy, and that's not in debate. everybody knows Russell Wilson's top 2 quarterback in the league and will be probably again for the next 6, 7, 8 years. Okay, he's Watson-esque. He's that
He
high of a
doesn't
talent.
get killed by a weak offensive line.
Well, again, so my point is that because of who he is and what he's earned, he gets a say, and he's not getting a say in Seattle. So his potential suitors are, and we've run this around. The Jets,
he's got a list.
14 teams. I heard
14 teams, yeah, but he's got it narrowed down to his preferred 4.
At least that's the amount of interest that has been put in the league, and that's not a surprise. So I think the teams being tossed around are the Jets, the Raiders,
that's not understandable.
the Niners.
Okay.
And the other 4th team that was in discussion, I don't remember off the top of my head, but it was the Jets, it was the Niners.
The teams that I've heard about are the Bears, Cowboys,
The Bears was the other
Saints.
team. Yeah, and the Cowboys too. The Cowboys were in the mention too.
Yeah.
Trading some first rounders,
And
giving them
Raiders.
Dak. And the
Bears,
Raiders.
Cowboys, Saints, and Raiders. Those are the 4 that I've heard. And a million of them have been bandied about as to who he would potentially want to be. But let me ask you a question. If you're married, and this is essentially a married guy, a happily married guy, not literally, but figuratively. I mean, let's face it, the marriage is, old and it's been comfortable and whatnot, and they have their problems. But he really is a happily married guy, and he's just been given the question, but if you could be married to somebody else, who would it be? And he gave a list. Okay, if I was Sierra, I'd be checking him. If I was his wife, I'd be like, "Let me see your phone. Let me see your phone. Why? Let me see if you got 4 other names on that phone that you would rather be with." I'm sure it's not like because Russ is a high character guy.
Yeah, he probably has 6 or 7, not just
He's
4.
a better person than I am.
Yeah, well, that's not a stretch.
I'm only casting stones in an ironic fashion. He is a better person than I am. I mean, I give to charity and I do nice things for people and I pay it forward as many times every time it comes up. But he puts in work. He goes to hospitals like every week. He goes to like hospitals and visits terminally ill kids. He has the Russell Wilson Foundation. You go to the office of the Russell Wilson Foundation. Is the boss here? Yep, it's right over there.
I think he was Walter Payton Man of the Year at least once or twice.
Twice,
yeah.
Twice.
So, certainly. Again, you have a gem.
Hot and talented wife.
You have a gem.
It's just so hot.
You have a proven winner. You have a quarterback that every other team in the league would immediately
He's not leaving
place.
Seattle. Paul Allen is not a moron, okay? There you go. You want to talk about a smart NFL owner? Paul Allen isn't a complete idiot, all right? I'll give you that.
I got news for you.
Pete Carroll may be around 4 or 5 years too long, but believe me, the only reason why Pete Carroll has been around 4 or 5 years too long is because there haven't been many good alternatives, at least in Paul Allen's mind.
Well, again, there's I'm sure they have a relationship, and I'm sure there's loyalty and all these other factors that go into play. So, but again, you're losing the loyalty factor when it comes to the players and the organizations, because I think it's certainly when it gets to this point when the relationship is so strained and the choices are many. Obviously, he has a demand. There's many teams he can go to. It's pro player for me. It's just let the players get themselves in the best situation they can for them and their families, especially in football. No guaranteed contracts and all these other things. Pro player.
Well, there are guaranteed contracts. It's just there's not a lot of them, and they're not big guarantees like you have in other major league sports.
I'm just giving you the landscape. I know his contract; he got paid, and I know many otother guys, if their stars are getting paid too.
But yes, we're pro player because we want pro player freedom.
Yes.
And all of that. I mean, let's look to who is the guy from the. Who's the guy from the Golden State Warriors that just had a tirade about player power?
Draymond Green.
Draymond Green. Yeah. He had a tirade about player power.
Mm-hmm.
You know,
and he caught heat for it too.
And he caught heat for it.
Yeah,
of course, because he's speaking truth to power.
But and the irony,
telling billionaires, hey.
And then the irony in the NBA where it's a me league. I mean, he's only stating a fact,
right?
And that's what drew it. Those stars. Listen, the NBA is a star-driven league. If any sport, the stars should be the ones that get to make the decisions, because without the stars, there's no league. Okay, Football is a brand. NFL is a brand.
Yeah.
The NBA is not a brand per se like that. Now, it is national. It is global. I get all that. But when it comes to in terms of power, NBA players have the power, and they deserve it.
Sure.
Marketing, merchandising, all that sort of stuff.
Listen, you look at these cities that have the big four sports and have at least one team from all big four sports. If you were to remove the community contributions of those teams and their players, individual players and the teams, you remove the community contributions that those teams make in that individual communities, wherever it may be, you punch a hole in the economy.
100%.
You're putting poor people in the streets.
Yeah, well, that's what just happened now with COVID. I mean, obviously, with everything going on, nobody
Right.
working, all these jobs being lost. It's
Right.
not just the players themselves. It's a tree, and the furthest outside part of the branch, the leaves, are just as important as the inner trunk.
Sure.
That's all part of the equation. So, in terms of where they're at now with their monies and stuff, in terms of the NBA and these players getting paid, I think a part of the reason why it is a me league, it is a notoriety league, is because, and I don't hear this often, in football, do you know what the left tackle from Tampa Bay looks like? Most people don't. They got helmets on. So there's a lack of identity with players in the NFL other
Sure.
than just the numbers and the names on the jersey. And then the few players who we do get to see, we know what Tom Brady looks like. We know what Deshaun Watson, why their quarterbacks are the most important positions. They are in the front of the pictures of these teams.
Sure,
So
I like Austin Jackson from the Miami Dolphins, but if I were to bump into him,
You would
he
know
would
that.
just be a big dude my
Okay.
size.
Exactly. So-
hey man, what's going on, big man? Hey, good to see you. Sorry, didn't mean to bump into you.
Yeah, so the familiarity, the identifying process, because you can see these players in the NBA and baseball and other sports too. Football, it's like big guy in a helmet, pads. It's like he's a robot. Like
Right.
you can't identify with who that player is. So, but anyway,
Gladiator.
Yeah, exactly. And again, that's okay. It works for football, but when you're selling the sport of basketball, you're selling faces, you're selling names, you're selling the top guys in the league, and these guys, Draymond Green had it right. Okay,
Yeah.
he understands how it works. He's been doing it for a long time.
Can't be a player-driven league and then treat the players like commodities,
Exactly, and I understand
like
that.
property.
And I totally get that. So,
So,
a little basketball thing. Here's a little something that popped up.
we're gonna just skip over the Tampa Bay Buccaneers.
Well, because we're on the Draymond Green. We don't have much NBA news.
Okay.
But just a quick little stat that popped up that I saw today. Do you know who the new turnover leader is in the history of the NBA? Well, actually, you do because I told you. So let's just play along.
Well, yeah.
Right, LeBron James, the turnover king.
LeBron James.
How'd you know?
Somebody told me.
I told you before the show. Yeah, LeBron James has surpassed one of the most ungodly men on the planet. Karl Malone was number 2 in that stat.
Well, I mean, the guy's been playing since like 1994.
100 years, yeah. And, yeah, so many turnovers for LeBron James. Now, here's the thing, like we've also talked about. The guy's played 1 billion games. He's played probably more playoff games than probably half the NBA's played regular season games in his career. So, yeah, leading the league in turnovers when you have the ball that much in your hand, it's not that terrible. So,
Was year before last, so it's 2019, was that the first year that he had not been in the playoffs in his career? The first year. Or was his rookie season also? I mean, he has literally been in the friggin' playoffs like
Yeah.
every year of his season.
yeah, he's played so many games and so many minutes. And again, this year he hasn't missed a game.
And
So-
I mean, would they have 2 appearances or 3 appearances with the Cleveland Cavaliers, 4 appearances with the Miami Heat, and now he's had 1 appearance with the Lakers. So we're talking about 8 of the last
I don't think he's ever missed a playoffs.
8 of the last 12 years he's been in the finals.
Oh, well, that's a different story. Finals, yeah. He's been in the finals a lot. But
Ludicrous.
notwithstanding, I mean, it's. I don't think that the NBA is in a position now where they need to not listen to their players. Okay, we're coming out of COVID. We're all grateful that we got to play this year in all our sports. But I think the direction, the shift forward now is going to be a lot more player friendly, and not just in NBA, hopefully in the other sports too, in baseball and hockey and the 4 major sports, football. So hopefully that becomes the shift now, because it is important about the money, but it's also important about, like we talked about, it's not just the player, it's not just the owner, it's the entire organization. And if you have
Which team is LeBron going to buy when he finally hangs it up? Which team is he going to buy?
Well, to me, he's more viable in either LA or in New York. So it's probably either of those two teams, in my opinion, if they're for sale.
He's going to buy Cleveland.
You think he goes back to
Cleveland? He's going to buy the Cavaliers.
Yeah.
I'm telling you right now.
And then go poo-poo on the owner. Say, here, take that. You know.
And then he's going to turn the Cavaliers into a monster. You watch.
Okay.
Probably drafts his son Bronny.
I don't know. Again, this is all hearsay at this point. Obviously, LeBron's got his hand in everything. Not just in basketball.
He's going to buy the Cavaliers cash.
Yeah, he may. It's hard to say what he's going to do post career, because it's hard to imagine an NBA post LeBron James. But,
well, I mean, you look at Michael. You know, Michael parlayed. But by the time Michael got out of the NBA, okay, after he retired for the third time, okay, he had to be worth north of $500 million.
Yeah, and that was then.
Right.
Yeah, that was all Nike.
And then in 4 or 5 years, he managed to gather enough people, and he also managed to go get some experience in the front office with, I believe it was with the Wizards.
Wizards, yeah.
Okay, he was vice president of basketball operations for them for about 4 or 5 years,
and it was a terrible thing for the
Wizards. But he gathered his multimillionaire, his rich, connections, and put together the money to buy the Charlotte franchise, which at the time was called the Bobcats.
Yes, they were.
And they managed to get the Hornets label back,
and
which
they've
was
been
great.
Terrible too.
They're getting better though.
They're
getting better.
Yeah, they're okay. They got a few young drafts. Got Devontae Graham and Terry Rozier. I know the whole roster. They're decent.
Ball kid is good.
LaMelo Ball is good.
He's the real deal.
He's good. He's good.
He's the real deal.
He's better than his brother.
His brother is okay.
He's better than his brother's pretty good, but he's better than his brother.
Apples and oranges,
and that's good for Charlotte. But again, we're talking about his decision making, Jordan's ownerships, and whatever. The Wizards, the Hornets, they were terrible. They've been terrible. I don't think LeBron James
owns the team.
LeBron James, everything he touches turns to gold.
Right.
I can't see that being any different in terms of
why he's coming back to Cleveland.
He decides to do. We'll see. Listen, it'd be a great story, and Cleveland would welcome him back open arms.
Of course, they always do.
Mind. Yeah. Can you imagine Cleveland being viable over the next 10 years across the landscape of sports?
They got a lot of really good young players right now.
The Browns are pretty good. All right.
Yeah,
Would you say they're pretty good right now? Good young
coach.
Even
though the Indians gave up Lindor,
they got a lot back in return.
Yeah.
And by the time LeBron James gets out of the picture,
plus they have Terry Francona for a manager. I love Terry Francona.
I did too, and my favorite Philly manager of all time.
There you go.
Charlie Manuel. But yeah, that's a baseball digression. So anyway, yeah, LeBron James.
Stop.
LeBron James will make anything gold. If he chooses to make it basketball, then fine. It's a great story. The NBA does not want to let go of LeBron James in any capacity anytime soon.
No way.
So
no way.
Whether he's on the court or he's in the front office, if he's in the news and if he's a part of the NBA, then that's just a plus for the NBA.
Right on. Okay. Real quick, then let's jump out of the NBA real quick with this segue of
it's a commercial from our sponsors.
Right. Okay. We'll have those soon.
Yeah. So.
Kobe as the logo, yes or no?
I think it sets a precedent, perhaps, of if, God forbid, we lose other athletes, big athletes, maybe on Kobe's level in other sports, that you're going to feel the pressure to not only just eulogize those, but almost like deitize those, if that's a word, make them a little bit more than the actual what the sport is. Listen, Kobe was an amazing contribution to the NBA.
Right.
Talent-wise, I mean, certainly maybe towards the latter end of his careers, maybe a little more maturity set in. He was definitely an ambassador to not just the game itself, but he was involved with the WNBA post-career with his daughter. He was a huge, big asset to the NBA, not taking it away. But many other NBA greats have passed and have left us soon. Many other football greats, baseball greats.
On his level, no, we're just sticking with basketball, because as we all you basketball nuts out there know that Jerry West, the silhouette of Jerry West, driving towards the basket, dribbling the ball, has been the iconic logo for the NBA for what has it been now? 45 years.
It's a long time. Well, you have the Naismith
Long
Trophy.
time. The
you
Naismith
have,
Trophy.
You have
yeah.
all these other things that I get it.
But Kobe Bryant statistically kind of overwhelms Jerry West, and his contribution to the LA basketball scene and to basketball. Okay, he never had a chance to become an executive, 3 times as long as he was a player. Although I firmly believe if he ever became an executive, God help the rest of the league, because he would have 12 absolute serial killers for players. Even if he had to go down to practice and beat it into them.
Yeah.
He's that tough. He is the poster child for focus. Okay, that is a razor sharp, laser focused type of a dude. I believe that he deserves the honor. I believe he earned the honor. I believe that it is a good time for a change. And plus, you can't use the real silhouette that the NBA wants to use anyway, which is Jordan with his split dunk, legs askew, ball in the air,
Yeah, that's
or
Nike
the flying, the Jordan Air Jordan silhouette. You can't use that
I'm okay
because he built $1 billion brand off of that.
I'm okay with if they're going to include or if they're going to use Kobe, I think they could incorporate maybe several players in the NBA. Maybe have a sort of a historical sort of thing where you're looking at maybe a player or two from each of the generation and maybe a collage of some kind, if that can be done. Because again, I don't want to get away from the fact of making just one guy a deity in your sport. Because again, that's not what the true efficacy.
See, but I don't consider
is.
Jerry West to be that guy. I honestly consider Kobe Bryant, and I can think of a half a dozen players that are more iconic than Jerry West.
Oh, no question.
Okay,
No question.
Jerry is up there in the top 10, Mount Rushmore, whatever you want to call it. But how many guys can you think of? Now, I mean, Bill Russell's silhouette is just going to be him crushing people, destroying. Shaq is going to be the two-handed dunk hanging off the rim, yanking the stanchion down.
I don't think it's Shaq either. But
but I mean,
it's a slip. All I'm saying, listen, I'm not against it per se. Like if they did it, I wouldn't be like screaming and go, "Oh my God, can't we do it?" No, and it's just that it's treading on pretty slippery slopes, in my opinion.
Oh.
Just because it's a precedent being set in that sort of direction.
Yeah.
Listen, build him a statue, hang him from the rafters, maybe at every home game or in the beginning of the seasons, do these little whatever. I'm okay with all that. But let's let Kobe rest for a little bit, okay? Let's let people grieve still, I guess, because there are still grievers out there, and just let them admire what he did. Keep bringing up the stories, keep bringing up the positive things about what Kobe's contributions were in the NBA, and then certainly later on in his life in terms of the other people that he touched. And let's go another year and let's decide.
Well, it's a good thing I'm the only one that's going to ask you, because it's going to happen.
Oh, I know.
I'm almost positive.
And again, I'm not against it. I'm just saying it's just.
I'm not against it, but just
you ask my opinion. Yeah, the term you use all the time is that meh term.
Meh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about
meh.
it.
I am the king of meh.
Yeah, that's kind of how I feel about it. So.
Meh. All right. So doubling back to the NFL.
Yeah.
Because we were
we segue to NBA and we get back to
we're all over the place.
That's my fault. I'm sorry.
We're gonna go to women's field hockey after the NFL. So brace yourself.
Just show the clips. I don't really
It's
want
just
to
so
talk
the
about it
women's field hockey.
Just show the clips.
Hot college girls bent over wearing skirts with their butts flapping in the breeze.
That's
my personal collection.
a
But
little
anyway,
awkward, yeah.
The awkward. It's like keep Gonzo away from my daughter.
Crickets.
Crickets. It's a good thing there's only a half a dozen people watching this right now.
Yeah, but they could stream it later.
But back to the NFL, the defending champs have themselves a little bit of a free agency conundrum.
Only about 20 players.
Only 20.
Yeah.
And
a few big names.
You have the list sitting right there in front of you.
I will find the list. I have a lot of stuff.
Oh, you had the. Oh,
no,
well,
it's here. It's here. Yeah.
I know that there's a lot of big names on that list.
Let's put the readers on.
Especially the top half dozen.
Well, obviously, we've got a few guys that were major contributors in the Super Bowl and during the year. Gronkowski is one of them. Antonio Brown, another big name. Chris Godwin, young receiver, slot guy.
Which is the sexy name.
Leonard Fournette, Ryan Suckup, a couple of big names on defense, and Ndamukong Suh, Levante David, and perhaps your man crush on the defensive side, Shaquille Barrett, right? So,
If Shaquille Barrett gets loose,
yeah.
the Dolphins should break the bank for him.
Yeah, I mean,
He is a BEAST beast.
the former guys we mentioned, the older guys, Gronkowski, Antonio Brown. Antonio Brown was on a $1 million contract last year. Obviously, he exceeded that value. Gronk, not sure
He'll
what
be
his
back.
contract was. These guys, well, Gronk more so than Antonio Brown. I think they're going to understand the situation a little bit better.
Sure.
I think Antonio Brown's just glad to be viable again. And he certainly was, considering that he led the team in targets the last 4 or 5 games of the regular season and got back healthy in time for the Super Bowl and got a touchdown. So very viable, very involved. I think those guys want to come back, and I think those guys will make concessions to do so. The younger guys, like a Chris Godwin, who's coming out of a rookie contract, 4 years, I think maybe almost $4 million in total.
What about this guy? What position does he play?
I man's going to want to get what, the guy on the screen right there?
Yeah. He's a free agent, right?
He was not a tight end, that's for sure. Yeah. So, yeah. So, listen, Godwin, he's a big name guy. He's going to have a market. People are going to want him. He's certainly going to get a lot more money than his $4 million contract was. So the Bucs are going to have to decide, do we keep the defense young and strong and sign those guys on that side of the ball? And do we let guys like Godwin go, perhaps, on the offensive side? Or do we just go to Tom, like maybe Seattle should have done, and go, hey, Tom, what do you think? What do you think we should do? And Tom's going to say, you know
You
what?
know they're going to go to Tom
Well,
and
that's
ask
what I'm
him,
saying.
what do you think?
That's
You
the right
know
thing to do.
this.
That was a shot on Carroll.
I-
So, yeah, that was a below
you
the
hate
belt.
him more than I do, which is really, really great.
Yeah, I don't like rah-rah
Listen,
guys.
I remember Pete Carroll from coaching the New York Jets when he did the choke thing.
Yeah.
When he played the Dolphins, which, by the way, he was 1-7 versus the Dolphins.
How'd that
but
work
he's
out
won.
for you? Yeah, how'd that work out for you?
Caught. Oh yeah, real classy coach. But anyway, go
Anyway,
ahead.
so I mean, obviously, Tom will be in that decision-making process. What I think happens is I think Brown comes back, again, cheap. I think Gronk comes back, I think cheap. I don't think they're going to be able to sign Godwin. I think
Well,
you
here-
kind of sold me on that a little bit.
I've
'cause
got a
it's
little
gonna
game
depend-
for us.
It's going to depend on what he makes.
I've got a little game for us.
I'm ready.
Okay. Lombardi or money? Okay. Lombardi or money? So read a name and we'll go Lombardi or money.
Antonio Brown.
Lombardi.
Okay, even though he's broke. But I agree. Because, again, with the Lombardi, guess what?
Yeah.
It's money.
Yeah.
Down the road, it's money.
Yeah, he knows that.
Rob Gronkowski.
Lombardi.
He's got plenty of money.
Right.
Lombardi.
He has yet to touch his NFL salaries. He's been living off of his signing bonus.
He was on Nickelodeon. Okay?
Exactly.
He's not going to
Yeah.
have a problem getting a job.
Right.
And Ndamukong Suh.
Lombardi.
Agree. Later in his career,
He's already said he'll work cheap.
got some money. He's going to do it. Now we got some tough ones.
Okay.
Shaquille Barrett.
Money. If
Agree.
the money is right and he's and Green and then Tampa can re-sign them.
Agree.
But he's going to go for the money.
Now remember, these guys
Because
already
the money's going to be like $20 million a year.
they already have half of this question. These guys already have the trophy.
I understand, but
so they're not
they have the
chasing it
chance
as
to get
much.
another one.
But certainly, but what this does now is that second bite of your favorite steak isn't
Right.
as good as your first.
Right.
And when you then weigh those together and you go, well, the money or what we're talking about, it's going to be money. Unfortunately,
name.
I think. The kicker, Ryan Suckup. He's a kicker. He's important.
Money.
Money.
And I think his cap hit is going to be small enough to where he may be the first guy that's re-signed.
Maybe it depends on what they're going to offer
Maybe.
him to. Those are the big names. Okay, an older player, Levante David.
Lombardi.
I
if
agree.
they decide to pay him,
I agree.
Lombardi. But let's remember the guy's on his is in his 11th
10th,
year.
11th year, yeah.
And the structured veteran minimum for players in the NFL. I mean, I believe it's tiered every 4 years.
Yeah, he's probably close
So-
to $3 million a year. I'm sure minimum
Yeah,
at that point. Yeah,
he's gonna. Even
fine.
if they could, I mean, he would literally have to negotiate, and he would have to get permission from the NFLPA to negotiate below his player minimum.
Right.
So if he's going to take a discount, if nobody's going to offer him decent money, okay, and he wants that second Lombardi, he's going to go he's going to go Lombardi again.
one more. Leonard Fournette. Lombardi.
Yeah, Lombardi because he got a good 1-year contract before. I believe it was $2.5 million.
Yeah.
He is one of those guys who he's a frugal liver. He lives life frugally.
He drives a minivan.
I guess
Volkswagen Bug.
You don't see him out in clubs. You don't hear about him, getting into hijinks. You don't hear about big boat parties. You see him going on social injustice marches and having town halls. He is a conscientious young man. I believe he got his degree from LSU, from Louisiana State
I wouldn't
University.
be surprised. The thing
So
is, too,
he's
though.
a very smart young man. He's a very serious young man.
Plus, when he hit the market, there weren't 10 teams knocking on his door.
Right.
So there was a few teams that were
There will
interested.
be this year.
Well,
he will get some outstanding offers.
Again, there were some injury concerns, but here's a guy that can still be a 3-down back. Even though Tampa has Ronald Jones, and
he's a stud.
even though he can catch the ball in
He's
the
a
backfield,
stud.
I think he goes back. I think it's Lombardi. I think he's got a few bucks.
Yeah.
And I think they'll pay him a few bucks, but I think they'll make it work. Because, again, in the league now, the importance of having those two guys. And Ronald Jones was hurt during the year.
Right.
Fournette was hurt during the year. They certainly
can
work.
share the workload.
They certainly work well best together,
Yep.
but certainly either one of those guys can carry the load if
Yeah,
need
yeah.
be, and that's important.
Yeah,
So,
yeah.
very important. So,
Okay.
Tampa's got some moves to do.
Come on, who else? Come on, give me
well,
more names.
again, that's pretty much it. You have Raheem Nunez Rachez.
No, Godwin's going to take the money. You didn't say Godwin.
We mentioned him, but we didn't agree, right?
We
Okay.
didn't agree, but Godwin's
He's
gonna,
money.
He's going to take the
He
money.
has to. $3 million. He's made $4 million.
He's going to take the money because he is going to have to sit down with his agent and have his agent explain two big numbers to him.
Yeah.
The big number being 5th year and your average life expectancy, or average career expectancy in the NFL for a wide receiver, especially a slot receiver. He's a guy who's been known to go over the middle,
Oh, yeah.
take shots.
He's a
had
tier 1
couple of
receiver.
concussions.
I'm sure they rank these guys tier 1, tier 2, tier 3,
Right.
whatever
Well,
you're saying.
he's going to have to take care of his family because he will get a signing bonus that will be probably twice as much money or 3 times as much money as he's made in his career so far. So any team is going to come along. Jacksonville Jaguars, Carolina Panthers, anybody's going to come along and throw money at him.
Yeah, well, these guys are all
Period.
currently.
He can't weigh that. He's already got one Lombardi. He's got to go get his money for his family. Then, and you know what? After that contract, after he's pulled in that guaranteed money, after he's lived the life of that contract, will probably be in the neighborhood of about $35 to $40,000 or $40 million. Then he can go and chase rings.
Well, he's already in free agency technically. The dates
Right.
have been released for some of these players.
Right.
Not all of them are currently in free agency, but as the days pass, they all will be. And obviously, they're going to have to make a decision.
The tampering period is coming up. The unofficial official tampering period.
March 9th, I think, is the official date. I'm not sure. But that seems to be the last date for their free agents. Again, guys have already entered free agency, but again, he's not.
You know what's really funny about the tampering period? I got a good one for you, and it's a good story, and it involves the city of Tampa. A couple of years ago, I heard tale of a certain adult entertainer who happened to be friends with a member of the New York Football Giants. Okay. Who happened to go through a little career-altering accident off the field, and she also happened to have connections with the Glazer family. She knew somebody in the Glazer family, and she knew somebody on the team, and she brought both those sides together before the tampering period. Okay, so there are different agents. There are different, and they're not just regular agents with licenses, but different people that are involved in this tampering process. And I can tell you that although the credibility of the story, I couldn't necessarily call it a credible, confirmed story, I can tell you that a stripper has been involved in these. And I can imagine just in every city, there's got to be
A side chick.
club. There's got to be strip club There's got to be strippers that are in every high-end strip club where players go, where it's like, yeah, tell me if you see him in here. Tell me if you see anybody in here. Agents have to have their numbers, general managers, personnel guys. I'm telling you, and
They made it.
Yeah, oh yeah. And and you can just see in their phone their names are under Domino's Pizza. Yeah, I'm calling Domino's. Anybody want anything?
Bob's Repair Service.
Did you see him? Did he come by the club tonight? It's great. I know it's a confirm. It's just we're in the business, and I know a lot of DJs from around the country. And I know for a fact that there's a lot of girls that date players, a lot of girls that are friends with players, and friends with players' girlfriends who either used to be strippers or are strippers. So the stripper network sometimes gives me a heads up, or can give us a head. So we will have exclusive news as we get it as to player movement through the Panda Network.
How many?
Go Panda.
In Adam Scheffner's contact list, how many dancers are in his contact list?
Oh yeah,
he's got 17 cell phones.
Oh yeah.
So he's got
and they're listed under Dave Smith.
Yeah.
Joe Johnson.
I was able to pull up what they think Godwin's annual salary, at least, and then we talked about the tiers and where they should fit. He'll probably demand close to about $17 million a year.
Woo!
That's a big nut. I don't think Tampa's going to be able to do that. Not with all the free agents they have.
Let's see, 4 years, $42 million.
No, 17 is guaranteed. 17 a year. 4 would be 68. He's looking at 4 and 68.
Oof.
With maybe a 20 or 25 guarantee.
Well, I was going to say 4 years, $42 million guaranteed, but that's okay.
Yeah. Well, again, if he's getting $17 million a year, his full contract will be
Right.
$70 million, and then maybe a third or a half.
Well, the
of that
big
would be
strategy is to front load every contract that you see. Front load the contract, throw the guaranteed money at him as much
Sure.
as you can the first year.
It's good business because guess what? The market resets every year or two anyway.
Exactly.
So you end up paying the most now, but in 3 years from now, that receiver you paid $17 million for, that market all of a sudden for that same guy is $20 million a year.
Right.
Or $22 million a year at that point.
Right. Well,
So-
and the Dolphins have that conundrum right now because they threw a lot of money at Byron Jones up front, who, by the way, is like the second highest paid DB in the league.
Yeah.
And the fifth highest paid DB in the league happens to be Xavier Howard, who's going to be demanding a new contract soon. They already paid a lot of his money up front. They front loaded his extension. They said, we're going to give you an extension, and we're going to throw we're going to throw $30 million at you the first year. And they happen to be hurt that first year. How about that? How's that for funny?
Yeah.
So
the irony of it all.
The
isn't
irony of it all.
Yeah.
So you have players that are going to end up getting huge paydays, huge. And I think that's the big thing for Chris Godwin, is that he cannot turn down $30 million staring him in the face.
Yeah. By any team.
Just for signing on the dotted line.
Yeah. Yeah.
And of course his agent isn't going to let him turn down his $3 million, his $3 million percentage, his commission.
It's a good nut.
My 10% commission.
It's good to be an agent these days.
You're signing. Here,
Yeah.
sign this. I'll forge your friggin' name, pal.
It's good to be an agent these days.
It's good to be an agent.
Yeah.
But okay. Well, I think we've wrung all we could out of this NFL rag.
I think so too. Hey, baseball's starting soon.
Let's get to the Major League Baseball.
Spring training. You got some games today.
Spring
I think
training
Yankees and
games.
Red Sox are actually on this afternoon. I think maybe,
Oh, my
or
goodness.
Yankees and somebody.
Oh my!
Yeah, we're here. Baseball season's here. We got about 3
that's
weeks.
golf.
Well, no, they were showing baseball before. What I want to do, and we're always coming up. We're trying to come up with different ideas for the show. Is kind of introduce maybe some young talent in Major League Baseball. We talked about the importance of the NBA and how they promote their stars. My knock has always been,
Sixto Perez.
who the hell is that guy? Well, thanks, Major League Baseball. How about you promote your stars? Well, I'm going to help you. Okay, I got a guy I like. I got a guy young. I mean, 18. He's 19 years old now. Seattle Mariners drafted him out of high school. He was a first-round selection.
You went to Jared.
Jared Kalenic. Let me tell you about Jared Kalenic. Okay, I need the readers for this too. First of all, this dude, when you look at Jared Kalenic, first of all, he's 6'1", 190 guy. He's not overpowering looking. He's not super imposing. He's not like Mark McGuire, Jose Canseco, 6'4", 240 guy. That's not him. But the dude's got a sweet swing and he's got wheels.
He looks like a grown-ass man in this picture.
I mean, he's 19 years old and he plays like a grown-ass man. Let me give you his total career stats for the minor leagues. Now, remember, he was drafted at 18 and he was put right in the fire. Single A, double A career, 663 at-bats total, a little longer than a regular season, for most Major League Baseball players. But prorated out in that season, 29 home runs, 110 RBIs. He stole 35 bases.
That's some production.
And he scored 122 runs. Okay, this guy's been put in the fire, and he's whacking the ball over the field. Left-handed batter. He did get a touch of spring training at 18 years old last year. I think he had 2 or 3 home runs in spring training. I know he's going to be on the opening spring training day roster. You're going to be seeing this kid hit some home runs. They're going to be in a position where they're not going anywhere this year. They're rebuilding. It's clear. They dumped some money.
They're rebuilding from the front office down.
They have a very good organization in terms of player development. I think 4th or 5th overall they've been ranked in terms of organization.
But their president of baseball operations just resigned for saying stupid shit.
Yeah, they made a mistake there. So he made a mistake
Stupid.
there. Yeah. So they're not going anywhere. I think you're going to see this kid maybe later in the year. They'll bring him up after the September call-ups because that way it won't affect his in terms of arbitration and contracts. And baseball has a very tight control over their players.
Time.
Yeah. So, but you will see this guy in spring training. Watch this guy play. Watch Seattle. Jared Kalenic. I said the guy's a beast. He will be in the major leagues for a very long time.
Then there's this guy.
That guy right there was in college baseball, had a brief career and had one at bat officially, grounded out the second base. So, but I pitched. That's why I didn't get many at bats. So, but I have an official.
Got a real pitcher look to you. Let me tell you what.
At least I don't look like a catcher. That's probably a little bit more dangerous than the pitcher look. But
wait. I smell testosterone.
Well, one more time. Can we put the picture?
No, forget it. It's gone. I'm getting rid of it. It's too gratuitous.
Jared Kalenic. All right, more baseball stuff.
Try to be serious, for God's sake.
Speaking of promoting your players, which you'll hear me talk about a lot as baseball season goes on.
Right.
One of the best players in the Major League Baseball has never been in the playoffs except for 1 year in his career. Mike Trout. Wow.
Yeah.
Guess who he got? He got one of the best third basemen in baseball, Anthony Rendon. Mm-hmm. Guess who you're going to see in the postseason this year? Mike Trout.
Yeah.
Angels are a playoff team this year.
Did they improve on their pitching?
A little bit wise. We'll get into more rosters as we get more into spring training. I mean, this is like day one of the game, so next week we'll be a little bit more prepared in terms of roster.
They lost the Japanese guy who was a pitcher.
Ohtani.
Yeah. Now Ohtani is the DH.
Yes.
But Ohtani was like a 300 inning, strikeout guy. He was a dominating pitcher, and he had to have Tommy John surgery, and they were like, you don't have to pitch anymore.
Yeah, well, he wasn't throwing 300 innings in our sport. Maybe in Japan he was, yeah. No, listen, obviously you just don't see a guy that can do what he does. Throw the ball 90 miles an hour and be able to hit the ball 400 feet.
Right.
It just doesn't happen. Actually, Rick Ankiel. Remember Rick Ankiel?
Rick Ankiel could rake it. Yeah.
Came out as a pitcher. All of a sudden, after 1 year, stopped throwing strikes, and then went to center field and smacked a lot of home runs. So, yeah.
Kevin Brown could really rake it, too.
Yeah,
Kevin Brown could put it over the fence.
Yeah, but Rick Ankiel became a position player.
Yes, he did.
Okay, he became a position player.
Did, but he lost his ability to locate the ball.
Could not throw a strike. So, anyway, this guy is a phenom.
Just one day it went away.
Yeah, but injuries obviously have affected him. And, I mean, if they want to have him in one capacity or the other, they'd like to put him in the lineup. So I think the Angels are a playoff team this year. I'm hoping for Mike Trout's sake because, again, you want your stars visible and viable. And Major League Baseball.
Did Pujols retire?
No, he's still playing.
He's gonna play until he's like 50.
Can I tell you something about Pujols? Did we forget how good Albert Pujols was?
Oh, I didn't.
I just put Mike Trout up there on a pedestal and how good Mike Trout is. Mm-hmm. But I pulled up a stat, and I may even have it in my phone somewhere, where they went over a 10-year period. Mike Trout's 10 years in Major League Baseball, and then Albert Pujols from 2010 up until 2019 for the entire season. And I know I have a picture of this. I hope I do. I think I do. I don't. They showed his numbers. I can, from memory, tell you that Mike Trout over his decade is averaging about 308 or 309, 30-plus homers, just over 100 RBIs. I know he's been saddled with some lineup issues. His teams haven't been as good as those St. Louis Cardinals teams were. But Albert Pujols hit 336 in the decade, averaged like 120 RBIs,
He's still
and
hitting in the
scored over 100
260s.
runs. Down a little bit last year. But
He's like 54 years old,
He's
and
up
he's still
there.
hitting in the 260s.
I think he's sitting at 662 home runs. I'd like to see him get to 700.
that would be really nice.
It's going to take him 2 years. I don't
Probably
know if he's got
2.
2 years left. I think last year he had close to 20 home runs, but he's not an everyday guy anymore. I think he's about 400 bats per year. If he gets 2 more years in him, he may get to that 700 number. I'm hoping he does, because that guy is a first ballot Hall of Famer, not a question. Jeter had all the votes. This guy's getting all the votes too. Mariana had all the votes. This
Sure.
guy's getting all the votes too.
Sure.
Nobody's not voting this guy in.
Sure,
So-
and plus, they have one of the smartest managers in all of baseball, and John Madden.
Yeah.
You know, Madden knows where to use an aging player with a good skill set. Still, I believe, he is the he's the backup first baseman now, though, right? He's DHing and backing up first base.
Well, unfortunately, he will DH primarily. I don't think he'll get in the field as much as in spot starts or
Great
injuries.
first baseman, though.
He was. Again, that was another thing. I think he
But
may
now he's
have
54 years old.
He may have
and
2
can't
Gold
get
Gloves
around.
too. Yeah, it's just. Whatever. Trout is a beast. Back to what we talked about. Let's get these guys on TV and in people's living rooms. Make the sport viable. We came back from what we just came back from
I'm
with
gonna tell you,
COVID.
you want to get Albert Pujols some pitches? Put Anthony Rendon behind him.
Well, that'll help.
Then you got to show the old man the ball.
That'll help.
You got to put the ball out there where the old man can hit it.
Yeah. So
And
baseball.
You're gonna pay
Baseball's
hard.
here. I'm excited. There's that season last year, the COVID shortened season was fun. It went by in a blink of an eye. It was
Yeah.
quick. It was like, we're starting, we're over, and that was it.
That was more for us than anything. They could have scrapped the whole season.
Well-
they could have put it in the bag.
But I'm glad they didn't. I'm glad they
Right.
made the effort.
They
And
did it. They did it for the fans. I'll
For
give
sure.
it to Major League Baseball.
sure.
They did that for the fans because it was an extraordinary effort.
It didn't look like both sides
And-
were going to agree.
No, it didn't.
They were fighting for a
no,
long
the
time.
players were like,
Yeah. Well, next year they're up for again another players' agreement, another sit down talk.
That's because half the Latino players still live with their grandmas, so they can't. See those the Latinos
getting hate
believe.
mail now.
Forget it. What hate mail? Latinos are great because they why? Because they believe in their family.
No, I get it.
Because grandma and grandpa still live with them.
Yeah.
Mom and dad still live with them. And that which by the way debunks a racist trope that Latinos live together to save money. No, they live together because they live together. They live together because that's part of the culture. Okay,
They like each
they
other.
don't discard their elderly. So try to call me a racist.
Wow.
Give me some hate mail.
No, I didn't call you a racist.
So the National League East is shaping up to be the National League beast.
Yeah, I think so.
It really is. Even the Marlins can be included in that bunch.
Yeah, they got some young talent. They fight, and they fight hard. They're not a good team yet.
Well, was it Michelle Eng? Is it Eng, the new general manager, the female GM, the first female
one?
GM in the Major League Baseball, by the way?
Go Jeter.
She immediately went to work on replacing the entire bullpen. The entire bullpen. All the middle relief, gone. She has cycled out 6 pitchers and cycled in 6 pitchers. 6 new arms, 6 old arms out. She essentially took the weakest part of the team last year and cycled it out.
Yeah.
You guys are gone. Here's a whole new bunch of guys. And now they have the enviable position of having close to a 6-man rotation as far as starters are concerned. Close to us. I mean, Sandy Alcantara,
Yeah, I like him a lot.
Sixto Perez. I mean, they're all of a sudden they're pitcher rich again.
Yeah. Well, I mean, a lot of young talent on that team, a lot of
Right.
unproven talent. Their projections, though, are going to be in the basement in that division. I think they got him at like 68 and 94 is what the early predictions are. Again, they're
Boo,
developing.
what do you know?
But I'll tell you this, they better not be that way next year because people are going to not have a lot of patience. I mean, it's been what? This will be the second year for Jeter.
Well,
Third
yeah,
year
yeah.
next year. Again, things need to start to happen.
This is the last time that the Marlins had this much young, up and coming, anticipated excellence at the pitching position, they won the World Series in 2003.
Well,
They had a whole bunch of young nobodies.
they signed some big free agents though too
But
at that time.
At the time,
The whole
on
time
offense.
on
on
offense.
offense.
Sheffield, and
Right.
they signed a lot. And Mike Lowell
Right.
was in his prime,
Right.
And a lot of guys who played.
But okay, well, Mike Lowell was a cast off from the Red Sox. They didn't necessarily sign him to a big contract.
No, but he was a big part of that championship
Right.
team. He was huge at third base.
But I can tell you for a fact that team in the beginning of the 2003 season, all anybody could talk about was the fact that they had two second-year pitchers, two rookies, and two old guys that were part of a cobbled together rotation.
Kevin Brown and Al Leiter, is that the two you're talking about?
No, that's 97's team.
Oh, you're in 05.
Right.
03 you said, right?
Right.
03.
03.
Yeah.
Okay, they're really, really young, done nothing, been nowhere type of a team. I mean, A.J. Burnett was the big veteran name on that squad. Okay, so
Was Levon on that? Or that was he was nice.
yeah, that was
Levon
Levon's
Hernandez.
crew too.
Yeah.
But they weren't given much of a chance, and all they did was win 94 games.
I don't remember, but they
Yeah.
were champions that year. They won't be
STUD
champions
studs.
this year. The Mets.
think so?
No chance. Marlins.
We're talking about a team that was taken over by Jack McKeon, 79-year-old Jack McKeon, who smoked cheap cigars in the dugout.
Yeah, and was allowed to nap.
And yes,
During the games.
and that team just hiked itself up by its jockstrap,
Yeah.
and said, "We're just going to go out and win a whole crap load of games."
Well, talent-wise, again, they project him at 68 wins. I don't know how many teams have started the season projected at 68 wins that have won the World Series. So
I know.
it's a growing process
I
for
know.
them. The Mets, the Lindor trade, huge. That lineup is scary. It's lefty dominant, though. They do have a couple of right-handed bats in the lineup, but that lineup is going to be a disaster for
and
most teams.
there's more right-handed talent out there to add. I mean, they'll balance if they're smart. If they're smart, they'll balance out that. You know me, I actually like to have a balance between 4-5-5-4 as far as the lineup is lefties righties.
Yeah.
You have to have some balance.
Oh, no
Otherwise,
question.
you're handcuffing yourself.
Well, again, part of the reason too
You're
why
easy
the
to
lefty
beat.
righties is one of the changes in the rules of baseball now is you can't bring pitchers in just to face one batter.
Right.
There's a minimum of 3 batters now.
Right.
So there's no longer bringing in the lefty versus the lefty specialist and sitting them down.
Right.
So yeah.
Which is another reason why the Marlins switched out 6 middle relief pitchers. 6.
Yeah, well, it's important, like you said, to have your lineup balanced lefty righty because it creates matchup disasters. What I really like about the Mets, though, is one of the signings they made. There's a catcher, James McCann. Okay,
Yeah, oh, yeah,
Dude
I know
can
who McCann
rake
is.
and he can fill the position, and that's huge. Obviously, having a catcher to handle that pitching staff is going to be a big upgrade. And they got the MVP. They got Jacob deGrom. So that team, okay, it makes sense the way the projections are. And again, the rest of the division, Nationals,
Are
Phillies,
they really going to beat the Braves?
Braves. They
Are they really going to beat the Braves? Are they really?
Braves had a really, really bad bullpen last year. I don't know if they've adjusted and made the changes yet. I'm not prepared to go through and give you the team-by-team analysis, but based on projections, they got the Braves at 82 and 80. So they see the
Wow,
Braves struggling.
really? That low?
Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah. So 4th in division. Now, 4 of the 5 teams outside of the Marlins, they have above 500. So clearly it is going to be a
Your
very
Phillies.
competitive division. Phillies, they got them at 83 and 79.
Oh,
Again,
whoopity-doo.
only these are only predictions and probably not even projections. Probably one guy going 96 wins for the Mets. I got Lindor and McCann.
Oh, baseball writers, don't get me started about those
please.
guys.
Those guys are whatever. Anyway, so I almost cursed. That was almost my first dollar in the jar right there. So if you notice, I'm going to curse a lot when it comes to baseball talk this year. I didn't curse a lot during
Passionate,
football.
I know, because you have definite thoughts.
And I cursed a lot about baseball. There'd be a lot of cursing about baseball. So basically, yeah, we're here, baseball today. We've got some spring training games on, only a couple of weeks before the season starts. All the changes they made last year for baseball, part of it was because of COVID and the shortened season they were forced to, but they did make some rule changes, and I think it created a sense of urgency. Unfortunately, baseball reverted back to their old selves this year. They're playing a full 162-game schedule. They had an opportunity to reduce it by some, add a little bit on the playoff side. Players said no. Next year when these guys sit down, I don't think it's going to be COVID.
Ain't gonna be a fight.
Yeah, I don't think it's going to be COVID that's going to keep them from playing. It's going to be themselves in 2 years when they don't come to an agreement. But we got baseball this year, and obviously we're going to be facing some of the challenges that some of the other sports are still facing with COVID and whatever not. But at least they got their toe in the water last year, and hopefully they've got a plan.
Right.
So,
well, I mean, listen, like every fight between management and players, or ownership and the rank and file, ownership and labor, you have rich people on one side that want to get their money, and rich people on the other side that want to get paid for getting in their money. So
that's generally how that works.
It's gonna be a fun fight.
Yeah.
And we're all going to be caught in the middle, and they're going to screw up baseball. I can just smell it. It's been a long time since they've done something to screw up the game.
Yeah.
And they always manage to do it at least once every 10 years.
It's coming.
They deadened the ball this year.
Yeah, we'll see how that, if there's any truth to that.
Idiots.
I'm not buying into the whole dead ball theory and the whole, juice ball theory and the whole this ball theory. And I get it. There's variances, I think, between, I don't know, how the production of a baseball.
They did it so on purpose. They had a press release, a news story about it.
I get it.
They warned us. Baseball is going to be more boring this year.
They've also brought in some fences in some of these parks, too.
Yeah, like in
very
Miami.
Contradictory. Dead the ball, bring the fences in.
Like in Miami.
Yeah, I don't know.
All right. So, wow, look at that. A concentric 12 minutes and 12:17. It's a good hour and 17 minutes. Look,
Yeah.
we didn't go an hour and a half this week.
And we didn't even get to aliens. We got time.
Well, we did aliens up front.
Yeah, we didn't back end the aliens.
You're going to back end the aliens. Now you're starting to putting things up your butt again. Stop that.
It's called probing. Okay, that's the term.
Probing. Oh, probing. Oh, sorry.
It's called probing.
Didn't. So these alien aficionados, you can't mess up their terminology. Oh my God.
They're coming. End of the year, we'll know for sure.
End of the year, you'll know for sure.
If you're a naysayer, I think I'm going to go maybe like October. October should be the day, somewhere in there, like the 4th, that we're going to know. Stuff's going to come out. If you look for it, it's already there.
Listen, I have been of the Vulcan premise, okay, that alien cultures don't invade us because we're not worth the trouble.
Wow.
And then B, they don't invade us because we're not an advanced enough society yet.
You think they'd be bored?
Well, the Vulcans didn't make contact with humanity or voluntary contact with humanity until they discovered warp drive in the Star Trek scenario. So if there was first contact with an extraterrestrial society, an extraterrestrial civilization, they're going to make sure we meet some sort of benchmark before they consider that we're actually smart enough to talk to. And right now, we're.
But what if it's not about
Ruprecht,
the inhabitants as opposed to the host? What if they're more interested in just the planet as opposed to the people that are on the planet?
Well, then that would be some sort of natural resource that they would want.
Well, that makes more sense to me.
That's like ID4. That's Independence Day. That's they wanted to send down a planet killer to drill out the core and take the core and leave the planet for crap, which would be really bad. We don't want that.
We probably shouldn't raise minimum wage then, because that's going to put a real strain on in terms of the workforce that they require.
Oh my God! What are you going to burn some books too?
I'm just saying, if they're going to be drilling to the core of the earth, it's going to take a lot of people, and it's going to really. They're not going to be able to afford it.
That's slave labor.
Oh, they're just going to put you to work.
Shut up and work, humans, or we'll eat you.
All right.
Let's get us out of here. It's getting real dark now. All of a sudden.
Speaking of dark, go see the movie Lobster. Oh my gosh!
Don't. And don't trust Rotten Tomatoes when they say something is 90%. It's like, really? I've seen so many movies that Rotten Tomatoes loves that have just been absolute dreck.
Dumpster fires.
I want my money back. I want my $12.50 back.
Yeah.
Okay, I've been going to the movies so long. I want my $4 back. But
$4
Rotten
movies.
Way back in the day. I remember when there used to be dollar theaters.
I worked at a movie theater. One of my greatest jobs I ever had. 16, 17 years old. Town Center Movies. Not there anymore. But yeah, I was working. I was on the floor. I was selling tickets and all that stuff. It was fun. It was a good job. It was my best summer job I ever had.
I want to bring back your picture so bad.
You can.
Was this your day off picture? No.
I was probably heading to work at the theater in that picture.
God. I bet.
Is there an AMC on tag?
No, I'm not bringing it back. It's not coming back. All right. So you can catch Damaz on at MLB Joy Us, as in Major League Baseball Joy Us. And of course, you can search Gonzo Radio on any platform. Pick a platform, any platform, including here on the Gonzo Radio Network at www.gonzoradionetwork.com. On YouTube, the Gonzo Radio Show, and of course, Facebook, and on Twitter at Gonzo Radio Show. And especially, I've been on Twitter a lot because I'm disgusted with Facebook. Facebook makes me sick. And that's it. Do you have anything any parting shots for the nice people?
Nope. We'll be a week into the spring training next week. Looking forward to getting a little more into the baseball.
Talk about baseball,
We got a little
next week.
coming up, yeah. So
all right,
and some NBA stuff too. So
well, on behalf of myself and Damaz, say goodbye to the nice people.
adios. Nice
We
people.
will catch you guys next week here, 11 a.m. sharp on the Gonzo Radio Network. More Gonzo Radio Sports Desk. I believe it'll be number 67 next week.
Yeah.
Bye.